This is Modern Gaming Culture. This series will attempt to highlight the phenomenon of PC, console, and mobile gaming and bring to light all of its phenomenal aspects. Let's take a dive together into the world of modern gaming and take apart its structure. Now, here's your host, Rotimi Osagi. Alright, this is Modern Gaming Culture. It's episode 31. Episode 2, Deck Profile Series, or G Block and On. Center Heroes just came out, but it's not tournament legal till 2 weeks from now. Up to Phantasmal Flames. So Skarner by base up to Phantasmal Flames. Episode 2 Deck Profile Series just finished with episode 1, which I did Mega Kangaskhan EX. And like I promised, episode 2 will be about Alakazam. So Alakazam been through a slew of controversy. Don't want to blackmail anybody, but Alakazam, Pokemon wasn't allowed to print Alakazam because it resembled too much of Yuri Geller thematically. So Yuri Geller filed a lawsuit against the Pokemon Company, and Pokemon Company was unable to print Alakazam cards because they weren't allowed to print Kadabra. And so, because in Japanese, I think it's literally like Kadabra is like Yuri Geller in Japanese. And so they weren't allowed to print Kadabra, so they couldn't print the Alakazam line. So they only printed Alakazam cards exclusively as Roblox Pokemon, what they're called now. Two price Pokemon, EXs, etc. Right? You have like Alakazam EX, a couple of those. You have Alakazam V, Alakazam V Max. No, just Alakazam V. And then Scarlet Violet, they started printing Alakazam in 151. So Alakazam, and they've been making them pretty strong. Even the 151 card. Again, this iteration of deck profiles is highlighting sort of how a format would unfold. And Alakazam didn't really unfold that well. And so Alakazam, has been done dirty by the Pokemon community, quite frankly, particularly the competitive Pokemon community, because we haven't had any results from Alakazam. I run into a couple guys playing Alakazam and they've been pretty pissed off, let's just say. Pokemon community thinks they're immortal and they're not, right? It's just odds, right? Again, right? First episode I did was Kangaskhan. And that deck will only see results because a lot of people are playing it. So it's not necessarily because the deck is good, it's just because a lot of people play it, right? And not even a lot of people play it, right? Because when you go to check out percentages at regionals, decks will average 16%. And so when you have 2,200 people, that's not a lot, right? But then the issue is then when the other decks are not that good either, right? That's why the decks get results, right? So I highlighted how Tinglu could be partnered with Kangaskhan, and then if there were people playing a lot of that, right, then Tinglu would basically diminish the returns on playing Kangaskhan EX, and so as a result, you'd have to sort of explore the format more, which is what this series is about. So I'm going to attempt to sort of highlight how the format would unfold. All right, so right off the bat, Abra, right? I'm playing the Twilight Masquerade Abra. It's not going to rotate, so it's going to be around here for 20 years. And right off the bat, I mean, this card has been good since it's come out, right? It's had such a really good vector, right? In the teleporter ability, right? Once during your turn, this Pokemon is in the active spot. You may shuffle it. All cards attach into your deck. All cards attach into your deck. So, you know, the card's been good since it's come out, right? You can just play 4 of them and you can do some really stupid stuff, which hasn't been done, right? And so, you know, this card is diminished a lot, right? And it's 2 more years. And so having such a powerful card in the deck in the format diminishing, it's never a good look, right? And so, you know, what they've done is, you know, they continue to support Alakazam, right? And you know, they have cards like Dawn now, and now it's just a deck, right? But it's 40 HP and there's 50 HP Abras, so card's still not good. And so it's still good to play because basically you can just put it down and you could just, you know, thin your hand and, you know, keep your deck alive, right? It gives you the infinite board state. And so, you know, despite the card not being played, you know, it's still good, right? So I played a Teleporter Alakazam Albras, right? And then of course I played a Psychic Draw Kadabra and a Psychic Draw Alakazam, right? Psychic Draw Alakazam is basically the main attacker of the deck. So as the attack, you know, powerful hand, place 2 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon for each um card in your hand. So this card is really, really good, right? So 2 damage for each card in your hand, right? So, you know, you're able to do all the funny stuff, right? So this format's about numbers, right? So, you know, these Mega Pokemon have pretty big numbers, right? And there's a lot of HP modifiers. And so, um, it's something where if you're not really trying to hit numbers, you're gonna have a hard time, right? And then you have Kangaskhan running around, right? It gets really hard to hit numbers. And so this deck's really awesome because infinite damage, right? And it's damage counters. And so your opponent, it basically just nullifies all this nonsense, basically, right? People want to play Kangaskhan and they want to just overload the deck, right? Um, you can play Alakazam and you can just trade, right? So you can just swing twice or you can swing once basically, and you'll KO Kangaskhan and they're gonna trade 3 for 1, right? And so and the Kangaskhan decks they can't even charge up a second Kangaskhan, right? And so it's not even 3 for 1, right? So it's really, really good, right? So this list plays Terapagos, and this is a package I've been working on, right? For quite some time. So I really want to highlight this package. So this plays Terapagos, Rotom, Noctowl, and this is a really, really good package because basically what it does is it allows you to play 8 bench Pokemon, and then it gives you a really, really consistent board state as well, right? So with a more spread out format, as opposed to when Skyfield came out, um, you know, having this package in the format is not something that is ban worthy, right? Even because even if a lot of people play it, they still have to play well. And so the format will kind of level out, right? And so that's what they're basically trying to avoid because they're trying to make their events as you know, effortless as possible. You know, these guys put a lot of money on the line, you know, with you know, banquets and VIP passes, and you know, it means a lot to them. And so they basically just try to make it as easy as possible as a community, right? Which is pretty unfortunate, right? And now they're trying to contain it by basically making registrations pretty much impossible to get. So, you know, you're not going to get your bands, but you're going to get, you know, you're going to get your $10,000, right? Even though you know you paid 20,000 to get there, right? So, you know, do the math, they're still in the negative. So, you know, the game's still fun to play. It's just don't, you know, don't count on, you know, buying a plane ticket to, you know, wherever the next regional is, wherever in the world, and, you know, showing up with this list and, you know, winning it all. Right? This is a very strong list, for sure. You know, you have the Terracogos attack. You can't attack with Crown Opal, which I'll get to in one moment. But you have so many attackers and so many options with the Noctiles, and you also play Hops Wooloo, Hops Double as well. And so this deck is just very aggressive, and it can just trade very well, right? That's sort of the theme of Alakazam, right? Alakazam is like, the telekinetic, right? So, to sort of stick to that theme, you keep to that theme, right? A lot of these guys are playing Alakazam and they're just throwing 3 bosses orders and then they're just trying to build a deck, right? Kind of like a structure deck. And so it's kind of bad to just play in general. Format's kind of wild right now, anyways. Charizard's still good for some reason, even though there's like 20 grass Pokemon in the format. And there's still Iron Hands to take 3 prizes off of Pidgeot. But Charizard's consistent, and the board's really hard to break. Doesn't matter how smart you are. And so these idiots are just showing up with Charizard and fucking up the format. It'd be like that, right? This episode's definitely gonna be a lot more casual for sure. Because with this format, it's really interesting to see it unfold. And so, to do it justice, I don't want to necessarily do it so, cinematic or anything like that. So I'm gonna try to be a lot more laid back. Because I don't want to sort of, oversell this, right? Again, I'm trying to do like an unfolding style, right? As opposed to a sort of like informative style. And so I'm gonna be a lot more laid back. So and so yeah, you just have to really kind of play your cards right, bottom of the line, right? Pokemon can get incredibly frustrating to play. And so, um you have to be prepared for that. You cannot just show up on the spot, right? Um these guys are maniacal, right? I mean, you can't even imagine some of the stuff these guys come up with. These guys are maniacs, right? And so you have to really, really keep your head on a swivel, right? Showing up, play something you like, play your style, right? Again, we have a unique opportunity here because we're kind of like the hub of gaming here in Toronto. And so, it's a lot different than if, you're showing up to some event in the middle of nowhere in like Massachusetts or something. If you're playing in Toronto, you have to keep your head on a swivel. It's all happening here. And so it's a lot different than, just playing somewhere random in America or something like that. And so, yeah. I like this package, and so I want to put it into Alakazam. People are generally playing with the Dunsparce, but the thing is, it just gets turned off by Team Rocket's Watchtowers. So mid game, right, having like the Dunsparce package in your deck, and then you have to search for stadiums, and then you have to play stadiums. It gets really messy, right? And so I think with Terrapagos it's a lot better because basically, if they try to turn off your Pokemon, you still have the Terrapagos charged up, and it can still swing 240, right? With no setbacks, right? Doesn't play Buffalo, doesn't play Bravery Charm, but it's still 240, and it's a 2-for-2 trade, right? And especially when these guys are fiending stuff like Kangaskhan and stuff like that, basically makes it very easy to basically trade, despite having stuff like people playing, one copy of Team Rocket's Tower and Goldengo, right? Goldengo's not a deck you're necessarily going to beat, right? You just have to take your loss and then try to get X1, right? And so I'm gonna try to keep this episode short and sweet because again, with deck profiles, I've done them already. They've been very informative, and so I'm not gonna, beat you over your head with an hammer with this. I know people are probably been anticipating that, and I'm not. Again, I've done my deck profiles, right? And incredibly informative, incredibly impactful, and so it's something where it's like, that Rotimi Osaki is never coming back, right? That Rotimi Osaki is gone forever, right? And so, I like doing those profiles and I like doing deck profiles like that. But unfortunately, this deck profile series is going to be a little different, let's just say. So that's kind of the long and short of the sort of theme of this deck profile series, right? So, you know, let's plays 4 Abras, right? And then it plays 3 Kadabras and 3 Alakazams. So you have 2, and then 1 if you get prized, right? And then you have 2 get prized, you play Super Rod. I think if you should be playing Super Rod and Palpad. Then we play 3 Hoots, pretty arbitrary. 3 Noctowls, play 7 HP because I play Poffins, right? Just as a precaution. Then play 1 Fan Rotom, right? Play 1 Fan Rotom, and then, if you don't have it, you lose, right? You lose. You lose. So you got 2 Terrapagos EX because you need that for the Noctowl and for the Area Zero. And then you play 1/1 copy of the Dino and a Dragon. I had this at 2/1/2 when I started. And it's fine, but honestly, with how spread out the format is, you can just play 1/1 and it's fine as a boss monster. Because generally you're not even gonna get 2 charged up. And you just play a lot of copies of energy to play it safe, right? And so yeah, your luck's really spread out on this card. So you're not gonna get prized high dragons and you don't need it, or you're not gonna get prized high dragons and you're not gonna find it, right? And you play 1/1 double, right? And yeah, that's a Pokemon. The trainers, you got boss's orders, right? 2 copies. I don't play 4. 3 Buddy Poffins. And then you play 1 Crispin, 4 Dawn, 1 Earthen Vessel, 2 Nest Ball, Super Rod Palpad, and then you play 3 Rare Candies and a spec Scoop Up Cyclone, right? You can just pick up 3 cards and plus 2 your hand, right? Especially with Kadabra, 2 and Alakazam candies. You just go crazy with this card. 4 Ultra Balls, and then 2 0/6 Machinations, and 1 Professor's Turo Scenario. On that note, next episode is going to be about Dragapult. Next episode is going to be about Dragapult. So it's definitely a more laid back episode and a more laid back series for sure. So, you know, you get your tea and cocoa, man, and you get comfy, man. Yeah, kept it short and sweet. Like that. Gonna do it for the formal part of this episode. And to conclude, yeah, really like the pace that I'm gonna set for this series. Because again, you gotta really listen to what I've been saying. Go back to episode 1, right? Check out all my body of work, right? All my internet publishing. Really listen and dig deep, right? And what I'm saying, right? You know, even though I repeat it endlessly, also I do anyways, right? Um, Mr. Broken Record. So, yeah, this is just really nice. I like these lists. They're a lot less, you know, subnatural. You know, these lists have been getting kind of crazy doing all this work. Um, Downtime is just it's insane, and so these lists are going to be a lot better, especially with rotation coming around. Right, rotation comes, and these guys all default. So you're going to be seeing a lot of Dragapults. You're going to be seeing a lot of Lopunny, and that's just going to be what's going to be collided. Right, these guys are going to be thinking Lopunny is Urshifu or something like that. And you know, if anybody of these guys are listening, congratulations. You know, round of fucking applause, right? But more likely than not, they're not. And so these guys are gonna be playing a lot of Lopunny, a lot of Dragapult. That's what happened last year. That deck wasn't good, but dude didn't make it any better, right? There was so much better stuff in the format. I think that's when I was doing my deck profile series that I'm gonna link in the description. So you know, yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see kind of how rotation shakes things up. A lot of cards like Tinglu and stuff like that are gonna be rotated, which are really important right now. This format's just been trying to just spread out the energies, right? So it's been really, really graceful with the energies. And so yeah, really graceful. I think she's still on YouTube too. You should check out her as well. Hope the algorithm doesn't gut me for that. But yeah. So that's gonna do it for Modern Game Culture. So it's been Deck Profiles, Modern Game Culture. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you.